Good morning. Welcome to Coffee Talk. It is Labor Day, September 1st, 2025, and I got a sneaking suspicion that I am not the only one working today. Although you can tell that by the late release, I didn't necessarily get up at my normal time. I think I was joking with everyone last week that Labor Day was just a holiday that meant we labored. It was Labor Day. It wasn't get off work day. It was Labor Day. But I am working today. And so I said, well, if I'm going to work and get up and go to work, I might as well do a coffee talk. So for those of you that are working today, that are used to maybe listening to this on your way to work, I'm sorry that it's a little bit later, but I did one. Probably won't have one next Monday. I'm going to be actually in Dallas all weekend with no plans of coming back until Monday morning. So I can't figure out how I would even get one done. So I thought, well, since I know I'm going to miss next week, I'm working today. I'll do a coffee talk today, and that'll maybe make up for the one I don't do next week. But I there's not well, I always say there's a lot to talk about. There's not a lot that's what you would possibly say is collision specific. I think that's one of the problems with this industry, is that our trade magazines are not really journalists. They do a lot of like press release regurgitation, or an advertiser tells them to do a story on X or do a feature on this shop, because they're trying to win that shop's business. But we don't do a really good job of kind of looking at the world and really sort of not predicting how that's going to affect us as an industry at whole. So there's a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about NHTSA. So the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration has opened another Tesla investigation, and we'll go through that. That's going to lead us into what ADAS really means to collision repair. Now, this one's going to be fun because I reached out to a couple people and said, "Hey, you want to like do a little like interview with me, and we'll talk about this." And because I've always said very openly, ADAS is not my expertise, and everybody was like, "No," so I can't blame them for not wanting to be on the show, because they're scared of insurers and OEs. But so I'm going to take a stab at some of this, and that's good because we'll get feedback from those of you out there that want to give it. Some OEs are actually stopping their ADAS production, and we'll discuss why. There is a DRP post-repair inspection, so I'm going to get on a soapbox and rant a little bit this morning, because that's about a better way to start my Monday morning. I can't think of one. There are more legal troubles around artificial intelligence. So we're going to continue this conversation around artificial intelligence, the good and the bad, and then what a body shop should know, because unfortunately, body shops are so gullible, and you always have been. And it typically is because you have lots of other things in which you are giving your attention, and you believe or trust that certain entities or corporations or associations in this industry, well, if it wasn't good for you or true, they wouldn't be telling you about it. So sometimes you step in big holes that cost you and may cost you greatly. So we'll talk about the legal troubles around artificial intelligence. EV sales continue to dump. And some OEs are taking some interesting turns to try to like get rid of inventory that they have. Amazon and Hertz have partnered, and we're going to discuss this one on the larger picture as well. We're going to talk about trusting yourself to fail, what this industry never wants to do, and part of why we are in this really difficult place that we are right now is because everybody's afraid to fail. And so we'll talk about the trust of failing. Shocker, some of you are going to just be blown away. I know you're not going to believe it. I know that you're going to want to argue with me on this one, but it is true. We started a fight. So there are just a few things in life that I'm good at. Golf is not one of them, and other hobbies, but I am damn good at starting fights around this industry. So we're going to talk about the latest one that I've started. Turns out the Brits are softer than we thought they are. And that's hard to imagine, but now the Brits want buttons back. And so I'm going to kind of plays into our ADAS conversation as well. And then GM, it started at the end of last week. I think Friday is when I first started seeing this post. It appears as though GM has made a huge website error, or did they? Like it may not be an error after all, and some body shops are going to have to really, really, really make some hard decisions. Well, let's start this off with the one thing that actually made me giggle and want to get up this morning. And actually, this is probably the reason I wanted to record Coffee Talk. But some more DRP inspections. Now, I get a lot of criticism over DRPs and how hard I am on them, and people will go, but yeah, Kristen, but there's worse shops. There are chop shops. There's people that are behind their house. They're on the Oka liner, if they are even trying. Let's just say it's pull to fit mostly than anything. But there are worse shops. I don't care about those shops technically, because they don't make promises of crap they don't do to consumers. So insurers and DRPs promise collision customers, the average consumer, that one, you put yourself up as being better. We have all this training. Our repairs are guaranteed. We're even guaranteed by the insurer. There's all these promises that they're lies that are made to consumers that make them believe that choosing a direct repair shop is in their best interest. I had a terrifying conversation with a customer recently who, no matter who acknowledged the safety problems, they acknowledged the desire for safety, but in their mind, they were dead set that even though the insurer was saying no to things that were specifically in the repair procedures that were safety related items, they must not be true because the insurer wasn't doing them in the DRP. Now that's scary as hell, folks. I don't care who you are. If you have a customer that you put in front of them, here is from the person that makes your car, here is what they say has to be done for you to be safe. And for a consumer to look you back in the eye and go, that must not be true. Because if that was true, my insurer would do them to my car because they're promising me this warranty. In the consumer's mind, the warranty is more than, does the paint match and will the wheel fall off when I'm rolling down the road? They believe that that is a liability promise of protection. In other words, you wouldn't give this guarantee unless you were 100% guaranteeing their safety. Now, I think that's what eventually is going to get an insurer involved in probably a class action lawsuit around their DRP program that they didn't see coming. And I guarantee you it's about to get an OE involved in it because the OEs are allowing DRPs to be on their OE certified program. And we've talked over and over, there is absolutely no way that you can be OE certified and be a DRP. You cannot serve two masters. And that's just the way it is. So this was another DRP inspection that came in. Now, about the time that this one was sent to me, there was an article that came out in one of the collision repair. It's not a magazine anymore. It's just digital online garbage. But there was an article that one of the collision repair trade magazines had put up, and it wasn't, they didn't even write it. It was, I guarantee you, it was a paint company or some sort of manufacturer of something that wanted to do an article in which it celebrates a shop and puts a shop out there as, look how awesome they are. And somewhere in the article, the shop is going to say that we're this good because X company's product or business development support or whatever. Now, the problem with this shop is that they are also celebrated in the industry as being leaders in OE certification. They win different OEs, Best Shop of the Year award. And we're not talking about the Hyundais and the Kias of the world. This shop wins awards from large OEs that have parts restricted programs. This shop also happens to participate in a 20 group that's supposed to be the world's best shops that really care about OE and whatever. Here's the problem. Their average RO in the article, $4,000. Now, math and quality go together. I don't care who you are. It always is the same. Price, you don't get good for cheap. And all of you know that, right? There's 1,000 memes, there's 1,000 diagrams, images, everything in the internet, the whole, you can have two of the three, but you can't have all three. You know, as a consumer, you know you don't get good cheap. We know that the average repair across the industry, according to CCC, who's full of DRP insurance, like hack-a-mack-em shops, is more than $4,000 a car. There is no way this highly celebrated OE certified body shop is fixing cars correctly, 100% following the OE guidelines and averaging $4,000 an estimate. Because everybody would quit, right? Like if you had to do all this stuff for free, what technician wants to work for free? Hey, here's the estimate you're getting paid on. Here's the double labor that you're going to have to do for free because we want to do the repairs. And that's what bothers me. Like you can chime in down here in the comments about how I know a shop and they're not a DRP and they're terrible. I do too. I can show you more of them. But consumers aren't led to believe that those shops are better. Consumers are intentionally misled and told that DRPs are better. I was the DRP director. Like I come from the insurance side of the DRP world, not the body shop side of the DRP world. That's what frustrates me. So this one popped up and I think everybody needs to look at it. The only thing, like, well, there's a lot wrong with this car, but that was a $35 part. It's a damn mounting bracket for a bumper. All the shop had to do was buy a $35 part. The level of I don't care is so high that they'll pass on a $35 part and just glob up a crap load of adhesive and just stick the bumper in place, praying and hoping to God that there's never a reason that this vehicle either has to be taken apart for anything whatsoever. Now, why should that bother you? If I don't care enough to order a $35 part, what else don't I care enough to do? As an OE and as an insurer, this should terrify you. You knowingly have shops on your program that'll do this stuff to a car and put a customer back in it and send it down the road. I got a call last week from a shop experiencing legal problems that I am going to, there's a couple of times today that I'm going to gloat on shops that are experiencing legal troubles. In this one, the shop caught the damn car on fire during the repair process from bad welding. There's a reason why you have to R&I all the components and things that are in the weld adjacent zone. There's also a reason why you don't weld on a car at 4:30 in the afternoon and then walk away for the end of the day so that you can watch for spark up. So if I'm going to be welding, I'm doing that at any time, like before 11 a.m. Because especially, I mean, I don't say any welding, but if you're in one of these areas where spark up might happen 2-3 hours later, you don't want to be sitting at home and get a fire alarm ding on your security system and look at the picture of your security cameras and see one car on your shop floor burst into flames. This car caught on fire, and the shop, instead of calling the customer and going, hey, happens, it's part of repair, we need to work with you on getting your car paid for and taking possession of or whatever, they actively in the file worked to withhold that information, not just from the consumer, but from the insurer. It caused repair delays. They were sort of making up lies for why the repairs were delayed so that they could, like, they didn't want to pay for the rental because under a DRP, right, you got to pay for the rental if it goes too far. So they're doing all this on the side to sort of try to make up for the fire damage. The fire damage isn't even repaired appropriately. We're talking resistors and some things in place to try to full scans. It just went so far out of their way to try to get this car kicked out the door that it's going to cost them a ton of money. And I don't believe that their insurance coverage is going to have anything to do with it, because at that point you're malicious, it's intentional. Like, insurance doesn't cover that. We cover stupidity, absolutely, but it doesn't cover malicious and bad intent. The repairs are getting worse right now than I've ever seen them in my 40-something year career. Yeah, I'm old. Like, it's made very clear to me. I was watching TV this weekend. It was the 20th anniversary of Katrina, and to me, Katrina still feels like just a couple of years ago. Like, I was running cat operations during Katrina. Like, that How's 20 years gone by? So in my 40-year career, I've never seen repairs this bad. And it's just apathy. And we've taught our technicians to not give a damn either because our estimators don't give a damn. And then our managers and our owners and our leaders don't give a damn either because they see this. They see you putting all of these signs in your lobby about how you're certified, and they see you posting on your own social media that you're going to this OE's conference and you've won this OE's award and you're doing all these things. And then they know that that's not what takes place in the day to day. That's not the real world that they're living in. They know they're not doing everything they're supposed to do. And so if you're okay with them with not doing everything, why should they want to do everything? The DRP world is toxic right now. It's unprofitable because that system's been abused. But I don't blame the insurers. If you're dumb enough to keep giving discounts and keep saying no and rolling over and changing your estimates, then so be it. I had an estimate sent to me last week where this estimator wrote a decent sheet. Wasn't anywhere near what I would have written, but you could tell that they had looked at the procedures. You could tell that they understood the guide to estimate. They sent it up. This particular chain that they are associated with has a group of people sitting in an office somewhere multiple states away that takes your estimate and photos and insurance friendly it. So they're gonna take the office and they're gonna take shit off of the estimate to try to make it more insurance friendly. They cut 10 grand off this estimate and they cut things significant safety value. So this estimator sends me the estimate, goes, what do I do, Kristen? Like they're telling me not to charge for things that are integral in safety. And I was like, well, now we're at an ethics discussion, right? When the place your feet are at no longer aligns with your morals and your values, it's time to put your feet somewhere else. Well, that sounds simple, but it's really hard for a lot of people in today's economy to just rush right out and find another job. A lot of us, and I've said this applies to me, I got one skill. My mom went into labor in the paint booth. I got one skill. This is the only thing I know in my life. I'm sure causing trouble and being a disruptor is a marketable skill in other industries. But this is what I know. I don't know if this industry crumbled tomorrow, what I would do. I mean, I guess I'll be a Walmart greeter. They make pretty good money. They're building a Buc-ee's, one exit down from my house, and those people make like 20 bucks an hour. I may go work at Buc-ee's. I don't know, but just finding another job isn't so simple to do. But it is very important if we're gonna like save this industry. Like, I don't know. I think for my 40 years, people have been talking about how do you save the industry. Body shops that are not on DRPs, you're going to have to do DRP post-repair inspections. There has to be a bad so that we know what a good is. And all of these people that are running around and telling we shouldn't talk bad on ourselves and we should be supportive of each other. That would work if the industry was supporting us, right? But it's not. There are too many people willing to make those deals for what they feel like is the financial security of volume, and they're selling out consumers' lives in the process of it. So if you're not on a DRP, you're going to have to do DRP post-repair inspections. You may actually have to advertise. You may have to promote it. You're going to have to do them. You're going to have to take pictures. You're going to have to put that out in the public so that the general consumer can really start to physically see that there is a difference between good repair and bad repair. That for most consumers, you're both body shops, you both do the same thing, except one's going to be way easier and they've promised me no out-of-pocket expenses, but there are consequences for that. And if you don't show that, then the average consumer doesn't understand that there is a difference. But also in legal situations, the average jury doesn't understand there's a difference, right? If I'm going to go, let's say we're going to go to umpire, we're going to go to court-appointed umpire, or we're going to go to trial on a physical damage case. And I'm trying to convince a judge and a jury or anybody that's hearing this that there's a difference between shop A and shop B. The insurer is going to come in and go, hey, we have all these shops on our program. They've agreed that they would do great repairs. They would warranty those repairs, and they would have never charged for any of these things. Sounds good, doesn't it? So how do I show them that there is a difference between shop A and shop B? That's where your post-repair inspections come in. So I get it. Nobody wants to be the bad guy. And a lot of people are like, look, I'm afraid of showing like somebody else's dirty laundry because I've got dirty laundry too. Yep, everybody's made a mistake. Everyone's screwed up a car. You can have the perfect SOPs. You can have great technicians. You can have great culture. I hate that damn word, and I'm so tired of people saying it. You can have all of those things, and we're still going to make a mistake. Sometimes mistakes just happen. Accidents happen, like cars catch on fire, right? Or we wreck them on test drives, or the tow truck backs into something that's in the lot. Like mistakes happen. Acknowledging them and overcoming them is important. But right now we've built this culture in our industry where there's just a few fringe people in markets that want to show the bad that other people are doing. And when we do it, we make them villains. I think of Kevin at Iron Mountain. We try to make him a villain. We make Larry and Mid Island Collision. We make those guys a villain. The people that are vocal and trying to show the world what the differences are, we tend to make them a villain. And everybody's just trying to do this get along. The getting along is getting us broke. Like you really can't be sitting in 2025 and feel financially secure or industry secure. I don't care even if you're on a DRP. Our MSOs are filing for bankruptcy and losing cash. So no one feels secure right now. So I think we have to look objectively at where we really are as an industry and go, okay, we've spent all these years doing it this way, the way the magazines want us to do, the way the jobbers, the way the OEs, the way the manufacturers tell us to behave, and everybody's sunshine and roses and smile, and we'll all get through this. And then here we are. So post-repair inspections, please do them. In light of this, I have a class that we do, and I haven't done it very often. And most people do post-repair inspections wrong. We're going to make that class virtual, where you can sit through it, and we will talk through what a post-repair inspection is and is not, what a body shop can and cannot do, what the process of that looks like, and the phases of that process that you need to go through. We will make that available online for people to be able to see and join in, because I think it's just very, very important that we discuss that more openly, and that, we're more, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. We got to be more critical of the people in this industry that call themselves professionals. Okay, let's talk about EV sales taking a dump. Well, that's kind of, we've known it. We've watched it. You've seen OEs talk about how their plans for when they were going to go all OE has changed, or their plans for OE production have changed. I thought this one was interesting. Tesla has a lot of cars that they can't do anything with. I was in Texas 3 or 4 months ago, driving around the airport, the Dallas Love Fair airport area, trying to get to this little barbecue place that I love. And there's a Tesla like dealership service store right there that's really close to Dallas Love Field. And then there's like this parking lot thing in the back, and it was full of Tesla, the Cybertrucks, but it was full of other things. And at lunch, I made a comment about what's all that about. And basically, we can't move the cars. People had pre-ordered, but they're not picking them up, and all these things. So I thought this story was very interesting. To get inventory off of lots, Tesla is offering your ability for you to lease a pre-owned Model 3 or Model Y. The rates are basically free to $225 a month. And so I was looking at this, wait, for $225 a month, I can lease a car. And if you're a real estate agent or something, this is genius. It's in Texas and California right now. I don't know if that also, those are two states that Tesla's been warring with lately on car sales. The having to have a physical dealership. We talked about that a couple of months ago, or maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, the changes where the Auto Dealers Association and some other manufacturers are going to war basically over the brick and mortar requirement of vehicle sales. So that it's really interesting to think that Tesla has all of these used cars sitting around in Texas and California, because there's just not a market for them, new or used right now. EV sales have sort of slowed, and that they're offering you to have a lease on these for $0 or $225 in these particular markets. Also, sidebar, for those of you that are watching the visual version of this and not listening to the audio version of the podcast, check out the lower right-hand corner there. Is this just me that we're just now realized that Michael Jordan has ownership in a NASCAR team? His airness is involved in racing. And so apparently he's also involved in a lawsuit around his NASCAR team and his text messaging. So that may be a sidebar. You may want to Google that. I did when this popped up, I was like, wait, okay, this Tesla story is very interesting, but this Michael Jordan story is a little bit. I'm a basketball fanatic, and it means what kid my age didn't grow up in the backyard trying to play like Mike. So, and yes, I owned Air Jordans that I believed were going to let a 5'6" white woman dunk. I figured if I practiced enough, I would dunk. But so I had to jump over and read that. It's pretty interesting. But I just never thought Michael Jordan. He's building beautiful golf courses around the country. Owning a NASCAR team. Okay, yeah, that's my sidebar for the day. All right, this one was interesting. And we've talked about this a little bit. I think for the last couple of years, I've had a lot of people go, I'm going to start an ADAS business, calibrations or whatever. And I go, why? Because it's a blue ocean of money. I mean, just ask the crash people as they're trying to get ready for their 2029 loan payments. I don't think ADAS is a cash cow. I don't think calibration and all that is that big of a cash cow either. When I meet with companies that do this, they're not telling me they're roping in the cash. So, but OEs are going to continue to make changes around ADAS. There's the litigiousness. That the case in Florida against Tesla was one of the first shots heard around the world on this. You can tell people all day long that this is not going to go well in court, and everybody goes, no, we know better. Until everybody gets smacked in the mouth. Was it Mike Tyson? Everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. So Stellantis is halting their development of level 3 ADAS. So level 3 is that hands-off sort of autonomous driving. We're going to get into more detail on level 2, level 3, as we talk about Tesla. And they said that they're citing high cost, technical challenges, and limited consumer demand. Interesting. I thought what was interesting on this is that in February, Stellantis had done a press conference that basically said this program was ready to roll. It was market ready. We're going to put it out. So February, it's market ready. August, it's never mind. We're not going to do it. They're suffering financially like everybody else. So over this past year, their stock has fallen more than 40%. It closed Friday at $9.63. That's not a great stock performance. So sort of everybody, there's this financial crunching going on everywhere right now. It feels like 2007, 2008 all over again. But OEs are sort of changing the conversation about ADAS, autonomous driving, all of those things. And they've sunk so many billions of dollars over the last 10 years into this that it seems sort of odd that you get here and after all you've done, you're just going to like turn around and walk away. So we'll keep an eye on that. But I do believe that part of this is driven by what is happening at Tesla right now, or not happening at, but happening to Tesla. And you all know how I feel about Tesla. So in my mind, this couldn't happen to a worse OE. Now, it's nothing to do with the cars, nothing to do with Elon or whatever. I just don't like what Tesla's done with their collision repair program. I continue to hope that there are some lawsuits filed. Larry and I both are like, hell, we'll work for free just to be a part of the depositions because they would be juicy and good. But NHTSA has opened another investigation, or everybody says NHTSA. I've always called it NHTSA. And NHTSA, I don't get that. There's no I, so I'm not sure where that is. But I tested a theory one time. If there's a word that you mispronounce in a video over and over, it'll drive engagement because people got on the video and leave comments to tell you how you mispronounce something. So there's a whole YouTuber that's his entire strategy and he makes millions. And I thought maybe I'll just keep saying NHTSA and people will keep commenting. But anyway, they opened another investigation against Tesla. Another one. I just want to tell you it's another one. Basically, there's a rule that says if there's an accident involving ADAS, right, autonomous ADAS features, you have like 5 days to report as an OE. You have like 5 days to report that to the government. Anything that involves advanced driver assist systems. So if that system is engaged, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll go in a little bit more detail, but you have 5 days to do this. They are not meeting the deadline. It's taking them several months. They've been late. There's a form. There's a lot of things that go into it. They seem to be the only OE that's struggling. Now, in fairness, God, I hate to be fair to Tesla. I really don't like Tesla. I can't even begin to count the ways in which I do not like the Tesla collision repair people right now. But there's probably more of their cars on the road that have autonomous ADAS functions that may be engaged in an accident than other OEs, although there's a lot of OEs out there that have these. They definitely are the ones with the spotlight on them right now that everyone's pushing real hard to go after. So maybe they have more of these than other people, and which makes it a little bit difficult for them to report. But I got to be honest, people. If Ford Motor Company can do it and meet the guidelines amidst all the recalls and the other crap they got going on, then I don't know why Tesla can't do it. It's almost like, I mean, there probably is no bar lower than Ford Motor Company for when it comes to reporting. Now that's a personal. I'm going to go back to the ignition switch issues, the exploding tire issues. I mean, like I got a lot of history crash unit investigations working with Ford to go, man, do those guys struggle. So if they can do it and they're not on the government's radar, probably Tesla, even though you may be able to say you have more volume, you probably should be doing a better job at reporting your accidents. Now, the other thing is there that many? Because, like for you to get that far behind, are there more than what we think there is out there? And the answer is probably yes, based on some other things. So let's just dive a little deeper in this because as our government begins to explore what they say, you've got 5 business days to do this. Why? They are focused on level 2 ADAS. Now you can go online and you can pull up this statute law. It's not really a statute. It's basically a decree from the federal government that says based on this law, the Transportation Safety Administration has the authority and you will do these things from now on. And it sort of outlines the why. You can go download and read this whole thing. It's not long. It's like 30 something pages. Basically, our government is saying this is new technology. It's not what we were used to when we're talking about the safety of autos on the road and what this organization of the federal government does to ensure that what's on the road is safe, not just for the person behind the wheel driving that vehicle, but for the people that are on the road next to that vehicle. So we talk about that in collision repair all the time. I'm putting together a 70-mile-an-hour missile. Basically, like that car is going to get on the freeway and it's going to drive down the freeway next to my mom and my brother and my cousins and my kids. Like it's going to get on the freeway and go 70 miles an hour. I'm putting together a missile. That missile happens to hold a human, right? But I am putting together a missile. And so just in a little outtake, we want to ensure their vehicles and equipment are free of defects that pose an unreasonable risk to motor vehicle safety, or are recalled if such a safety feature is or a safety issue is identified. So in other words, are you tracking? Like, are you waiting for us as the federal government to go, you must issue a recall, or are you proactive when you're aware it shouldn't take 50 accidents, 100 accidents, 5 people dying? I mean, that shouldn't happen for you to be aware that there's an issue. So what's good about this, I always like it. We struggle with definitions in this industry, required versus recommended, and we'll go back and forth forever. Occasionally, the federal government defines things for us, and when they do, it's very powerful. If you're going to use that in right to appraisals, small claims court, like whatever, like the federal government has said this is what it is. Like it's not my opinion. This is what. So they go through and they define ADAS, what level, level 1 and 2, level 3, 4, and 5. And a crash. This is what I love. I love what a crash is, right? It's an impact, it's a physical impact between a vehicle and another road user, which that can be a vehicle, a pedestrian, a cyclist, etc. Okay. How many times have you had a discussion with an insurer where they're like, but it didn't hit another car? It's not a crash. It hit a, whatever, a pothole. Okay. Anything that's another road user, pedestrian, cyclist, anything counts as a crash. Great. That's awesome. Crash also means where property that results or allegedly results in any property damage, injury, or fatality. So that's a crash is any property damage. $10 estimate to a $10,000 to a $100,000 estimate, that's property damage. A subject vehicle is involved in a crash if it physically impacts another road user or it contributes or is alleged to contribute to another vehicle's physical impact with the road. So this steering, braking, acceleration, or whatever. So if this car is going down the road, we talked. God, I'm gonna pull this back up because I think I forgot to show y'all this language while I was talking because I was busy reading. But if we look over there where it says if it contributes or alleged is to contribute by braking, steering, acceleration, or other operational performance to another vehicle's physical impact with another road user or property that's involved in the accident. So what that is we had some people report. This happens a lot when we're doing rental cars. You've got your cruise control, or maybe you don't even have your cruise control set, but you're driving on the highway and you go under a bridge and suddenly it slams on the brakes. We had this happen in a rental car for us. It scared the hell out of me, by the way. Like you're cruising along at 60 miles an hour and all of a sudden it locks up and like tries to stop the car because it was looking for what it believed was an object to be in the way of the vehicle, but because the vehicle had not been calibrated technically repaired properly, the structure was off. It was looking in the wrong direction. And so every time it would go under like this underpass, it would lock up the brakes, right? You had to like, let's turn all this stuff off so we could drive the car and take it back to them and give it back. So imagine I'm cruising down the road at 70 miles an hour and I'm on the freeway and I've got 4 cars behind me and I suddenly go under this overpass and it locks up and I get rear-ended. If that ADAS contributes to the accidents of others, is the cause of, or is alleged to have contributed, you got to report it. So now it's what I love about this is it's really giving some emphasis on it's not just what happens to the car in question, it's if how that car is influencing or affecting the other cars on the road around it. And then those systems do need to be engaged. For the purposes of determining whether a level 2 ADAS or the subject vehicle was engaged, includes crashes in which it was an attempt up to 30 seconds before the event. So lots of people, there's things you can turn off. Lane departure is one of the things. I had a truck, I was towing a camper, and it had the lane departure thing, and it would like beep at you and vibrate the seats. And I was like, damn, I got it. So I would turn it off. And a lot of people turn that stuff off when they're driving. But here's what's interesting. So engaged. A lot of us think, well, how often are people going to actually engage this? Is that just the long trips when they're on highways that they have these features on? And Ford recently put out a report, and some people had shared it in the industry, that for 2024, more than 70% of the time in which their Blue Cruise, which is their ADS system, so that autonomous like hands kind of hands off the wheel, it doesn't mean that you don't have to be in the driver's seat. That's a different level of ADAS, right? Or of autonomous, but the hands off the wheel thing, 70% of their Blue Cruise was on trips that were under 20 minutes. So that tells me people aren't just turning it on the freeways. We're turning it on in stop and go traffic, regular roads, taking the kids to school, all of these different ways in which people are engaging it. Now, as a body shop, that sort of are to perk my ears up because I need to know, first of all of this stuff stacks. Level 1, 2, 3, 4. It's all sort of like Legos. They've got to connect to each other. They sort of compound till we get to this level of hands-free or whatever it is. So it's not like I got to do the 2s right, but screw the 1s. Like it sort of all works together. But as a body shop, I need to know that people are using these features. When we talk about people turning them off, we talk about sometimes cars come into the body shop with the systems off. We got to turn them on and we've got to calibrate the car and we got to give them back with everything turned on. They can opt to turn stuff off again if they want to. But so we've talked about this for a lot of times, but 70% of its usage is in the daily driving, the less than 20-minute trips. That's to the grocery store, to the mall, nobody goes to the mall anymore, do they? Am I showing my age? I think I am. But going to, take the kids to soccer practice or whatever. People are actually engaging those features, and we've got to be aware of that. Now, it goes on and explains level two. And I think the three, four, and five is what a lot of us believe. Hey, um, we don't think of the hands-free autonomous driving outside of the brands like Tesla very often. Most of us that are fixing Chevys, Hondas, Kias, etc. But level two ADAS is pretty plain and mandated according to NHTSA. According to NHTSA, it's mandated that cars have to have it. Claim mitigation braking, some of these other things. So if we look at level two, it is partial automation. In other words, things where the car does reactions on its own without necessarily the input of the driver. The driver can override them, but without necessarily, and that's steering, braking, etc. Now, what I want you to pay attention to. So level two, partial driving automation where the vehicles can control steering, acceleration, and deceleration under specific circumstances or specific conditions. I'm sorry. These would include things like lane control, lane assistance. So not being able to change lanes when there's a car, not being able to like leave the roadway, trying to keep you in the middle. Adaptive cruise control. So speeding up and slowing down based on objects that are in the way. Like I set my cruise at 70, but when I run up on somebody, it draws my speed back. It doesn't let me just plow into the rear of them. Obstacle avoidance. I like this one. The way this one reads, in my mind, blind spot monitoring, parking sensors, all of those things fall into here. Although parking sensors, people will tell you, is technically level one, unless it's automatic parking, like the where it does the parallel parking for you and all that. But all of those sensors are talking to the car that lets this level two and then to level three and then so and so on work. So in my mind, when I read it, blind spot monitoring and parking and steering. So the steering, being able to kind of corrective steer the vehicle back, not let you go into something. So when it thinks there's something in the lane or you're changing lanes, like I hit my signal and I want to go. If you don't hit your signal, it won't let you go, right? Like you're like forcing the car off. It's you're having a wrestling match with your steering wheel. All of that would be level two. Now, who has level two? Well, it's not just the Teslas of the world. So we're talking Audi, we're talking General Motors, BMW, Ford, Honda, Kia, Mercedes-Benz, Nissan, Subaru, Tesla. Basically, every car on the road has some sort of level two in it now, and it's pretty much mandated. We wanted backup cameras, we wanted claim mitigation braking. That makes sense. So those cars have it. So now, what do I want you to know? Kristen's like, why are you talking about all this issue? Because level two in collision repair is every day for us. If I think it's some sort of high 90s, probably plus 95% of all collision repair estimates involve a bumper cover. You're into level two. You're in parking sensors, your radar cruise control typically is behind the bumper. You're into blind spot monitoring systems. You're into all of this, right? If the government is tracking this and making OEs report accidents, crashes, etc., that involve their systems, do you think an OE wants to go to the government and say, our fault, yep, we got to change our software or whatever? If there is an opportunity to blame this on a repair, it's going to get blamed. But one of our other trade magazines decided to do this. And this is I get to say, I told you so. I spend a lot of time talking to attorneys for whatever they see a video, they go to Google, they're, for the most part, they wanted to sue an OE. They tried, the OE comes back and goes, not our circus, not our monkey. This thing had an accident. Now they're looking at where else do we go? So they start to kind of double down. And when you Google, you're going to find me or Larry, just because that's how the internet works. And we've got 1,000 videos on YouTube and all of these things. And these people will call and I'll spend a lot of time talking to them. Now, sometimes I can't help them. I may have, what's the best way to put it? If I am working with a company in some capacity, so if I'm training estimators at an MSO, or I can't be involved in a legal case against them because that would be a conflict, right? I'm over here working. I happen to have access and things that probably the average public wouldn't know because I'm in the facilities or I'm training the estimators are coming to me or whatever. So then it's not fair for me to come over here and be involved in a lawsuit or a post repair inspection or any of those things. So a lot of times I have to go, sorry, can't help you. But I am blown away at how many times a week I get an email that comes. Some of them come straight to me. Some of them come anonymously into the website to Melanie, and they have to, hey, we have a case. We want to discuss this with you, whatever. I've got rules. You've got to disclose who the shop or whatever is, so I can just, I'm not wasting the time. I don't want to hear the story. I have this bad problem about once I've heard it, I can't unhear it. Um, and so if I'm going to have a conflict, I would just rather know and not hear the story than hear it and fight the urge to pick up the phone and go, what the hell are you doing? Like, I just knew that one bothers me a whole lot. But the amount of phone calls, also insurers, I'm getting more and more calls from insurance company, litigation teams, in-house counsel, et cetera, going, hey, we got a few questions for you. Do you mind if we, talk some things through? Um, I've been retained. It happens to Larry Moore because he works with an engineering firm, but you get these retainers where they suddenly call you and pay your retainer fee, and then I never hear from them again. And I think it's half the time they just don't want me to be involved. And so if I'm on retainer, no one else can retain me. It's like, huh, okay, well, that works. All right, whatever. All right. This is an attorney who is seeing this massive uptick of ADAS related lawsuits against OEs and collision repairers. And she talks about it openly. Um, a lot of times people, you don't want to believe what I have to say, and a lot of times I've got non-disclosure agreements. I can't give you the details of the case. I can just try to like be I feel like Chicken Little half the time, like I'm just in the background running around telling everybody the sky is falling, but this stuff really happens. It's really real. um Recently, a shop that I don't like um got sued, so they're probably still in the process of being sued. And we went back and forth with their law firm because, like I told you, I have rules. Basically, just tell me who it is up front so I can tell you whether or not I can listen. I don't even want to listen. If I can't be involved, I don't want your details. So don't call me with the details of the case. Do the disclosure of who it is. You can send me an NDA ahead of time, whatever. That's fine, but just tell me who it is first, and then I'll tell you whether I can or can't. There's no point in wasting each other's time. So I did not have a conflict with this shop other than I don't like them, which the attorney was then like, no, that's even better because if you don't like them, you're not biased or whatever. I'm like, no, 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 I really do not like the shop. Like if they're a shop that went to some manufacturers and jobbers, and basically the whole threat, if you want to do anything with Kristen, I'm going to take my business and go somewhere else. And I'm okay with that. Like that's competition, right? I'm going to tell you that I don't want you to buy Sherwin-Williams paint, or I don't want you to do like people I don't like. I don't like Spinese. I don't like, there's a lot of people in this industry I don't like. So I'm going to tell you, I would really hope that you don't do business. So I'm not mad at the shop for I'm just like, okay, touche. Let's see how it goes. But it's a shop that just did not want to believe um, a lot of what's going on with ADAS. They were doing aftermarket scan tools. They were working with Aztec a lot. I mean, that this doesn't involve Aztec, but they just weren't doing the OE thing, and they've gotten hit. And they're in the middle of it right now. I'm sure they'll settle. That any obvious intelligent attorney is going to tell them to settle. But I got to say, I told you so. And it felt really, really good because that was the one thing. I think some of you saw me post. I was like, fine, if the shop wants to issue a video apology, all the bad things they said about Collision Hub, they take it all back. I'll help them. If not, I'm going to double my fee and whatever. But so I got a little revenge. I love it when I get to say I told you so. Larry loves it more than me. He really does. But some things that are just ugh, if you're going to get caught up in this, I don't know if there's any way we can do this perfectly. I've met with some different attorneys about waivers and changing the contract, the services contract with consumers, and like what this is going to be to protect shops. You can try to do your best and you can still do it wrong. There's just like I don't see any way of being perfect. But some things that you're just going to have to figure out right now. Um, you're going to have to commit to OE tooling. I don't know how you're going to get on a stand or explain why if a car didn't do what it was supposed to do, that it's not your fault when you didn't do what the OE told you to do, which are the people that research it. So I don't see any way around not involving OE tooling. Now, if you're doing this OE equivalent or OE compliant, I think that's another way of saying it's aftermarket, right? You can call it, what do we call it? Opt OE, like whatever we want to do. That's lipstick on a pig. It's whatever. But the thing that collision repair that I want you to focus on right now, and damn it, I had to say, Larry. So everybody bookmark this, send Larry a text message because Kristen's going to say that Larry was right. Ugh, those words did not taste good. I ugh, I like working. So ProTech is an ADAS calibration company, headquartered out of Texas. They were independent for a long time, and eventually they were bought by Caliber, and so everybody kind of judges them by that. I like working with them. I like being like the times that I've been allowed to go down there and be in their office and talk to their people and watch them work. They're struggling like everybody else is struggling to figure out where's the safe place, and OE, and they have their own sort of like rules engine and some things. I appreciate that. But one of the things that stuck with me that they told me a couple of years ago was that when cars come to them for calibration, a lot of them, a large percentage of them go back because the structure is not right. And or suspension isn't right. The vehicle needs an alignment, or it should have been measured and pulled, or whatever. And so that's what I want shops to think about as we look at all of this legal trouble that's picking up for ADAS right now. Calibration isn't necessarily pass fail. When you put the vehicle on the ground or wherever you're supposed to do it and you hang the targets, it aims for wherever you put that target. So you've calibrated the car, you just might not have calibrated it correctly. So when we look at this article from 2017 from iCar, that basically how bad 1 degree is. Now, if we go back and we talk about that ADAS report, that white paper that you can get on our website. So if you go to our website and you choose, I think, news or articles, you can click on Accenture and Burke Porter put together this great article that really does a better job of talking about what iCar was talking about in 2017. But just 1 degree makes a huge difference when you're compounding it over how many feet that this software is supposed to see. So it's supposed to see an object within a certain range based on the speed the vehicle is going, and that allows the vehicle to stop, steer, do whatever. If it's not seeing in the right spot, does it stop too early? Does it stop too late? Does it stop when it's not supposed to stop? Like we're going under a bridge, right? Like the structure, the physical structure of the vehicle or the parts and components makes a huge difference. For a system that helps the vehicle steer to stay center, then the alignment has to be right. The steering angle sensor, SAI, all that stuff has to be right, or that math problem doesn't work. And if it's wrong and you're 1 degree off, that literally can be live or die. So we're at a point in collision repair where you're going to have to pre-measure cars. You're going to have to look at pre-alignment or alignment in a completely different way. You probably are going to need to measure sensors, sensor location, sensor positions. I mean, we have all those different tools where, you check the angle and all the things to make sure the sensor's pointed in the right direction at a 45 degrees or whatever. But is that bracket in the right place? So if the quarter, because I thought I was a metal technician and I'm going to pull that out, or who the hell cares? Like that car we looked at from the DRP, bumper's going to cover it up, just throw it on there, put some adhesive on there and have it stick in. If none of that's right and that sensor is not looking in the right place, then that 1 degree can make a big difference, like live, die. So we're going to have to start taking pre-measure seriously. MSOs, this is you. For good, bad, or worse, you made a deal with the devil. You went to the insurance companies and said, give me all your volume. So you are more likely to be a target of this lady and firms like her looking to make ADAS lawsuits a thing. They're big money right now. I mean, you get an injury with an ADAS accident, you're talking like, double digit millions of dollars is going to be the settlement. So, as that Tesla settlement in Florida rang a bell that we cannot unring right now, right? So this is going to get worse. You're just going to have to do it. Now, I get it. The problem is I got one $40,000 measuring system on a bench that's in the corner. It's supposed to have cars on it. I can't take every car over there in Blueprint and do it. Um, Teaching people to use measuring systems hard, especially, we train our technicians, but the technicians don't see any ROI. Like you want them to do something they're not going to get paid for. And my answer is, I want you to do something that's going to make sure you don't get sued. Who do we throw this on, or what do we do? All right, shameless. I am very proud of Celette. Uh, we've talked about this with the Celette team a lot, and then the team, James, Fritz, Bob, those guys have just been really great at listening to what's going on. And then Pierre and the team in France and Thailand and India and all over have been really good at going, hey, maybe we can solve a problem or whatever. I loved Eagle. Eagle was great. It was an easy measuring system. I felt like it was a video game, right? You hang it and hit some buttons and pew pew, and then you get your measurements. But now they have a way to pre-measure that's less than $100 a month. And so that's their web tools. I think a lot of shops should probably have the web tools, even if you've got another measuring system, because you're always going to find there's some car that's not in the database or whatever, and nobody has a better database than Celette. What I love about their database is it's based on CAD data, so computer engineering, so the computer numbers, whereas a lot of people, their measuring systems are based on post build. So it comes after it comes off the assembly line and goes to a dealership. They pull cars off dealership lots and do comparative measurements, and then that's where the data generates from. So you have that build tolerance that's plus or minus. And so if you're basing your data on build tolerance, you're not at zero. CAD data is at zero. And so that's what I love about it. But they found a way to take that data and make it applicable to tram gauges. Now, probably not anymore, but there was a time you couldn't go into any shop in North America and not see an old set of tram gauges sitting in the corner. To this day, when I still have a shop that tells me they have a fitment issue, a door, a lift gate, or whatever, I'm like, where's your tram gauge, right? Like we can fix this let's take some quick measurements and see where we're at. So some digital tram gauge options that some people have come out with. Well, there's like $15,000, and for a lot of people to commit to that and put it in your blueprinting station, asking probably your estimators to do it has been a lot. This is a tram gauge. Now you can do this with a $300 set of tram gauges, or you can buy the digital Bluetooth one that is magnetic, and spend $3,000 on a tram gauge. Like it's just up to you for whatever investment into the hardware you want to put. And then for less than $100 a month, you have the 50 years of database available to you that Celette has. I love that it gives you the pictures and shows you exactly where you're going to put that tram gauge to get your measurements. Now, why does it make a difference? Well, for those of us that were doing under hood dimensions in the old Mitchell, right? With the way we used to use our tram gauges, that's confusing as hell. If you look at that diagram on the left, you had to really know what you were doing to know where that gauge was supposed to go, the measurements, do the comparatives, whatever. And so when you pull that up, most people are like, no, I'm out, right? I think it's one of the things about the Matrix One that was so good is it had this data, but then it did it sort of in the backhand computer for you. But then, that went away. But that was a $25,000 tool as well. With the Celette one on the right, you see basically you get a picture with a red arrow that says, put your stupid tram gauge here. Like it feels idiot proof, which for me is good. I'm not a frame tech. Like that's not what I do. I can look at a frame report. I can tell you what should or shouldn't be there. I can tell you when the frame report's wrong. I can do all those things. But if you pulled one up on the rack, that's when I go, well, Larry, you're up, right? That's his thing. So that's like, but the tram gauges I was always able to do until really recently. We used to even have tram gauges as part of the Skills USA test. But that's one thing that every shop probably still has in a corner. But if you want to upgrade, you can. From there, when I get my measurements, right, I get to, if I have the one that's Bluetooth to it, I don't have to enter my numbers. The digital tram gauge enters it. If I don't, if you look over on the left, It tells me all the points that I should measure, gives me the picture of where I should put my tram gauge. Tells me down here, like I get to tell it whether I've got a tram gauge that has extensions. So in other words, the tram gauge is always level, or whether I had to tilt it to cover, to get around something or whatever. I tell it what I've done. I tell it what the measurement is. I enter them by hand, or like I said, if you have a Bluetooth. And then when you're done, it'll print a report for you that you can hand to somebody, right? Like it looks like the 3D reports. You've got the green dots. Here's the measurements I took. I enter what my numbers are. The system then goes back to the CAD data and says, based on what you've entered, you either are in spec or you're out of spec. Now, I don't use this report to fix cars with. Everybody goes, well, what? No, I'm using this report to tell me whether I have a problem or not. And I'm doing it not necessarily on just the area where the impact was. I check the whole car, kind of like I'm going to be responsible for the whole damn car when it goes back, not just for the part that came in on the accident. So if I need to make sure as quickly as I can assess, is this car, does it need a more detailed attention? Does it need someone with more training, more expertise? Does it need better equipment? Like, have I identified the need for it to go to my $40,000 frame machine measuring system so that I can get a really good readout by one of my highly trained technicians? Like, but I can't calibrate a car if this isn't right. I can't calibrate a car if the suspension's off. I can't if the alignment's off. Like all of these things, it is critical that we pre-measure cars. And it's getting more critical because it's the one thing that we don't do, because we tell ourselves, well, I'm never going to get an OE to pay for that. And so because I'm never going to get an OE, I'm never going to get an insurer to pay for that. So I'm just not going to do it. I'm only going to measure the cars when I can visually see something that's wrong. Well, if you're sending those cars off for calibration and you don't have, I mean, like I think about, and I think it's one of the conversations, like the ProTech people really took the time, but if you're using a company that's not going to take the time to go, okay, yes, it's going to calibrate, but no, something's wrong. Like if you're not with the right people, do they know to send the car back to you and tell you that you have structural damage? And I think about how much they were experiencing times that the cars needed to go back. And I go, man, we have got to pre-measure. Like there's just no way around it anymore. That's just basically for your legal safety. Like if I want to be able to show that, hey, I checked it. We did a cursory. I mean, if I do find something, it's going to help me charge, put it on the estimate easier. But I mean, I would much rather a couple tram gauges, boom, 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 boom. We're either good or we're not good. But the day of just not doing it is over. When these attorneys tell me how easy these settlements are right now on these ADAS cases, and that they just feel like it's easier money to them than a bodily injury claim. So there's so many people, when the economy's rough, man, the bodily injury claims go up because people are looking for extra money. But when they find something that they say is easier than bodily injury claims and settlements, because I mean, technically, a lot of the insurance companies on low impacts are just saying no. They're making people like go to court on the injury claims. I don't want to be the next blue ocean for attorneys for their billboard and their daytime TV campaigns. I would much rather that them stick with the have you been injured in an accident instead of like whatever. All right, speaking of OEs, this one came up into the week as well. GM on their website locator apparently delisted all of the dealerships. And the only thing that people could find online were the calibers. Some people were reporting, hey, my dealership, I'm still on here, or my independent shop is still on here. And then you have people like there's a couple, but overall they didn't list a single Chevy dealership center in the Dayton area, and there were 6 of them. Was this an accident? I don't know. Is there a decreasing value in being OE certified? Hell yes, there is. I think it's coming to an end. I'm just going to go ahead and write it down, just write my prediction. I do not believe OE certified collision repair will last. As management of it gets harder, the people that are in it aren't necessarily bad people, like that are on the OE side. They're not bad people. This just isn't their industry. And so they kind of don't know what they don't know. And they're making bad decisions. And it's not showing an ROI for shops. You got General Motors that recently tried to say, they put out a little press release spiff saying, hey, shops are getting claims directly through the GM app or whatever. But then you have a report where suddenly a bunch of people are no longer listed on the app. So what does that do? Um, I don't know. I, at this time, GM hasn't made a response. It's too late it was too late in the week for them. We'll be watching this week to see if GM comes up with a response. All right, let's talk about Amazon. So Amazon and Hertz have partnered up. And they're going to sell cars. This is not the first time that we've seen some sort of vehicle sales sort of take place on Amazon. An OE did it a couple years ago. You would buy the car through Amazon, but you'd go to a dealership to take delivery. Hertz is partnering up with Amazon, and basically it's going to start in Dallas, Houston, Los Angeles, and Seattle. You've got to be within 75 miles of like an Amazon like distribution type thing. And I think that's going to boil down to when we talk about how the National Auto Dealers Association and the OEs Association are in a fight with each other because the dealers love the laws that say you can't sell vehicles online. You actually have to have a physical location, and it's preventing the online sale by Scout, the people that are trying to bring the Scout back as an EV, or a Tesla or whatever. I think they're looking for a loophole. Those OEs, like the Teslas and the Scouts and the whatever, kind of looking for a loophole. And it seems like Hertz has kind of is going to help them with that. So I don't know if that has to do with the inventory. Actually has to go to a Hertz center, and then Amazon will, or I'm sorry, the inventory goes to an Amazon center, and Amazon handles delivery, pickup, or whatever. Is And I hear Carvana is not doing good. Is Amazon going to buy the little Carvana rollbacks and like deliver cars? I don't know. They intend to expand this to 45 cities nationwide. What I want you to keep an eye on here, there are a lot of manufacturers, not just car manufacturers, but when we think about the people that make the consumables in our industry that have been working recently with Amazon and have Amazon stores, there is a push to cut out the middleman. So your jobber, your distributor that's in your market, can we do direct sales? I don't blame a company for that, right? There's a lot of markup that goes to the profitability of the jobber, the distributor. In their mind, hey, we have all these massive increases, right? If we didn't have to share money with those guys, could we keep the product prices at something more appealing to body shops? I think what people miss is how much shops sort of rely on local jobber distribution chain for support for everything that a lot of times has nothing to do with the products that place carries. Um, Cabinet systems, artificial intelligence, inventory systems, some of those things that you see manufacturers getting into. Right now, you have paint companies that are doing these automatic mixing banks, like PPG's got Moonwalk and whatever. There's these vats of toner, right? Like, do I need somebody to bring me by, to regularly come and service my bank as much? What is this going to do? So we just want to keep an eye on this and see where it goes. If all I've got to do is pull a toner out and put another toner in, can you ship that? Yeah, I don't know. People say that there's some shipping things, but I get shipped stuff all the time. So there's ways to do it. It's probably pretty expensive, but I think Amazon Auto I know at one point Amazon was coming to all of our trade shows. Some insurers were talking to them about parts sales, like OE parts sales, like being able to order your OE parts through Amazon and have them shipped to the shop. That conversation went down. I just stopped seeing Amazon Auto pop up at so many events, but folks, keep an eye on it. It'll be interesting how this goes. Okay. So I started a fight. No one's going to be surprised about that one. It's sort of my hobby. I tell people, some people play golf, some people play tennis, some people, whatever. I go online and I start fights. And then I go to sleep, and I sleep very well at night. While the internet melts down. I usually go to bed at 8:30. So like by the time people are getting home and they've finished whatever kids and they go to check their social media at night, I miss a lot of the comments. But we started to fight. And so this one will be interesting because I'm gonna show you the conclusion of this fight probably next week. Larry's going to Dallas this week as well. He's got Mercedes-Benz welding validation. So we'll be a little bit later before we finish it. But here's what happened. In my 40 years, I've taught a lot of insurance adjusters how to estimate. They typically come from, no background whatsoever. And like that training starts with this is a fender, this is a headlight, this is a wheel, this is a strut, this is a, I mean, we have to go through that. In the course of training them, I often, not just me, trainers all over the country, we try to find things that are visual. There's very limited what we could actually go out. And we used to have a training center and we had cars in it, but we were very limited what we could do in that. Obviously, for human resources, OSHA and workers' comp regulations, like we're really, limited in what we can do with these people. So we would always try to find ways in which we could physically illustrate things, larger concepts that would be good for adjusters to kind of keep in their mind. So the paper demo is one that we've done for forever. And in that demo, we really just want to explain that it's not the metal itself that is the safety component. And it's not this part's safe, but this part has no value or whatever. In automotive, if I just take a part and hand you the part, it seems it doesn't weigh anything. I remember when I was a kid working on these 80 models vehicles, I couldn't lift a fender. Like I couldn't get a fender out of the box. Like I could unbox it on the floor and I could do whatever. But when it came time to like pick up the fender and put it on the car, I had to get my brother, I had to get my dad. I couldn't lift it. It was steel. It was freaking heavy, right? Now, I think a 2-year-old could pick up a fender. They just don't weigh anything. You almost like you wave them in the air and they sound like a, you've seen those people in the country that play the saw where they just, make it sound like a, I don't know, like a harp or whatever. But it feels like, how could something this light, this flimsy, this nothingness have a safety value? And the answer is it's in not just the substrate itself, so the chemical makeup. So it's not just steel. Every steel is like a proprietary baking recipe. Everybody's got their own whatever. It's how you shape it. So the different kinks or indentions or things that I put in the panel, that's where this not just the strength comes, but also how the forces transfer, and then how I attach those panels to other parts. So this part standalone, nothing. This part over here, how it's welded or glued or riveted to the part next to it, as they begin to stack on each other, now they're stronger. So I always think of a pyramid, right? As I start to build that, as I'm putting those things on top of each other, the overall, it's a strong thing. So in this demo, we always would give them a piece of paper. We would do, set this, and we would ask them to give us something out of their briefcase or their cell phone or whatever and go, do you think that this piece of paper can support this weight? And obviously it always fails. Now we then turn it into like an accordion. So we roll it, we fold it over and over until it's, looks like an accordion. We set it back down. And now, because of the way we shaped it, in other words, the substrate did not change. You can go watch these videos. They're on the Facebook. They're a reel on our Facebook page. They're also on our YouTube shorts. Now, because of the way I shaped it, the substrate didn't change. I just changed its shape, and now it will support the foam. And that's always an aha moment. And that's when I explain to adjusters, hey, repair of a panel is not just about the time and the hours. I can give somebody 10 hours and they could probably fix something. I can give somebody 20 hours and they can probably fix something. But if that panel changes physics, if the physics of the panel changes and I can't restore the physics, in other words, restoring the shape doesn't mean that I restored the physics. If I can't restore that back, then I gotta change that panel. Doesn't matter like what the panel costs, doesn't matter how many hours, it doesn't matter any of that, how skilled I am, what set of equipment I have. BMW, I'm talking to you right now. None of that matters. It's all about like, the integrity or the structural makeup of that panel. Did I change it? And you change things by the way they kink and they bend. Those molecules either get closer together, they get further apart. And so we can't see it a lot of times with our physical eye, but it's there. Now, everybody, I got 2.3, so 2,300 views on that reel. I got a little golf clap from everybody about that's a really great illustration and that's so wonderful. Now, we showed you part two. We showed you part two because somebody asked for part. So somebody had been in class and asked for part two. Now, part two of it came out. And it's where we now take that same, okay, so it supported our cell phone. Now I take it and I crash it, I wad it up and I lay it out and I flatten it out and I smooth it back out and I, beat on it a little bit like a hammer. And I am specifically talking to the metal finishing wizard idiots of this industry that keep posting these videos of just mashed up quarters and rear body panels and rockers and all of these things. And they've either got their glue pull or they've got their miracle pull system and they're straightening all of this. Now, BMW, the reason I'm blaming you is I've recently learned that you're making your shops go to a program that's costing them 20 grand to send a technician to learn how to do dent repair. Really? Um, It doesn't even include equipment. Like I couldn't even believe it, right? But here we are. So I make the demo, I flatten it out. Now I do use two pieces of paper in this video just for time purposes. And then I put my phone back on it, and guess what? It won't hold the phone because the structure, the chemical makeup of the thing has changed. Now it wouldn't have mattered what piece of paper. I asked one guy if I do it again and do it with one piece of paper and it fails, do you promise me that you're never going to write repair on a panel again? And he wouldn't take my challenge, so I get it. But the next time that I do it, it fails. And it's going to fail because, like we said, when you move those molecules that you can't see except under a microscope, and they either get tighter, which means now it's brittle, or they get more bigger, which means now it's weak, right? Like whatever that happens that you can't see, the physics of the panel changes. So then I had a guy that goes, well, the kink versus bend and all of that is old school and you're not, this isn't a real demo. A real demo would be metal. And I'm like, sure, but I can't take a bunch of people that are, were at Target last week, asking me paper or plastic to go out and do a metal demo. I'm in enough trouble with HR and workers' comp as is, right? Like it just wasn't going to happen. But so people then started getting pissed. Look at the view count on that. So it's so crazy about social media. When it's a neutral thing, you love it. As soon as I start making you feel bad because I'm telling you you shouldn't be repairing half the shit you're repairing, now suddenly everybody wants to get in there and argue with me. So the one guy, which is great, it drives the view counts up the more you want to argue and comment. But I got 16,000 views because everybody's upset and they're picking the demo apart. And then the one guy comes in there and goes, it's so old school and nobody does that. And I'm just going to follow the OE. And I go, that's great. I think you should follow the OE because there's two OEs that actually specifically talk about kink versus bend in their repair procedures and why you can't do it. Oh, but by the way, there's also an OE that did the demo with metal. And beautifully illustrates the whole why you should not repair something that's had like that kink versus bend when that damage has been there. And so the fight that we have started, and Larry and I are going to clarify this. We're going to actually do a really long, detailed video on this because here's the problem. We owe, and the customer deserves a repair. But I think the problem in this industry becomes what is repair? Well, you've got a bunch of people that want to sell you some really expensive equipment or a glue repair. It's actually moderately priced. Now, there is a place for every single stitch of that equipment. Sometimes because we want to show you how good it is and what it can do, we showed in our demos repairs to things that obviously would not have been repaired in a real collision center. But a lot of people watch those videos and go, oh, great, I'm never going to have to replace an exterior panel ever again. And then we tell ourselves, well, it's not a structural panel, so it doesn't matter. And you'll always hear us go, well, what's the backside of that panel look like? What maybe other panels behind that panel were impacted by that collision? And what are you really doing? And then people go, well, no one's going to die because I fixed a dent in a quarter panel. All right, if we want to say, for example, let's just take that argument and go, okay, you're right. No one's going to die because you did a crappy job on a quarter panel. You really cared about making a video that showed the shiny metal and metal finishing and look how great I am and look at the before and the afters. And you wanted to be a YouTube hero, so you did that. Or you wanted to be a DRP hero and have more repair to replace so that you could impress an insurer or whatever. What do we owe the customer? Do we owe them a repair? And then what does a repair mean? Does it mean that you've repaired the panel? Or does it mean that you've made it cosmetically appealing? In other words, is it lipstick on a pig? Like, I agree. Looks great when you're done. I agree after paint, but I'm not worried about the superficial surface. I'm worried about the backside. I'm worried about how that panel's going to age over time. What does the customer really deserve? What does repair mean? And I think that's a conversation we're going to have to start having because we're not having it the right way. We're a little too caught up in the people that have been trying to sell us things. And we've watched what they've wanted us to believe so that we'll want to buy their equipment. And we haven't had that critical thinking and go, what do they go? So if we look at the law, it's going to come down to the law, right? And I tell insurance companies this all the time. We're going to go to court and you're going to tell me that market standard. And I'm going to tell you that I'm going to use market standard against you. So if we go into the law and we look at market standard and we look at repair, these are two quick definitions. So law.com defines repair as to restore to former condition. That doesn't mean the paint matches. It doesn't mean the dent's gone. It means that panel needs to be in its former condition. And we always say relative to safety, function, and appearance, right? You get stuck on the appearance. I get stuck on the safety and function. Or in some contracts to operational soundness. So in other words, what's the contract say? In the insuring agreement for first party, it just says we get to repair or replace. And I'm going to drive home on this definition of repair. I'm also going to drive home on this definition of repair when it's a post-repair inspection. And you're going to say, I say you should have put the quarter panel on, and you're going to go, no, no, no. Now I'm going to have some backside pictures that are going to look terrible by the time we're done. But I'm going to go, well, great, I agree with you. You owed repair, but that's not what you did. Black's Law Dictionary, so one of the oldest referenced legal dictionaries in our country, and there's one right up there. I love it. I have an old copy from the 40s that I love. I love looking at how definitions change over centuries, and it's kind of cool. The restoration of a damaged, broken, or failed device to return it to its original intent. Quality control, the action that needs to be performed so a product can fulfill its intentions and purposes. So if we argued what a legal definition of a repair is, it's not just making the panel pretty. And we don't get to say when we're called to the carpet on it that, well, that's not a safety part, so it doesn't matter. It's the same as the insurance company's telling me, well, we're going to put the bumper cover over it, so you're never going to see it. Is that repair? When an insurance company says that, I don't owe to fix that. Washer bottles, they used to get like, scratched and all kinds of stuff. And we would go, hey, we got to replace it, the washer. And they're like, well, it still works. No one's going to see it. Why do I owe to replace it? If that used to burn your britches, then when you're doing this stuff to cars, you're the exact same mentality as the insurance company has at that point. And I get it when the insurance company does that. That's their job. It doesn't bother me. Bothers me when body shops do this. So I think as we go forward as an industry, we're going to start having more and more conversation about what really is a repair. Like, it's not just making something pretty. It's making sure that that thing's going to function and last the same. And when you've changed the structural integrity, and not like it's a structural part, the physics of that piece of metal have changed. It's gonna rust. I mean, typically nobody does the backsides. It's gonna not wear the same as I'm driving down the road and the body is flexing like it's supposed to. If you watch those videos of when it's not necessarily hitting potholes, but they put stress on the suspension right or left, and you're watching the panels flex. What's that repair going to do? What a year from now, what's that going to look like? 2 years from now, what's that going to look like? It's not just about pushing it out the door and getting it delivered. OEs, I understand that you're trying to get to cost of ownership and what that does for your insurance rates, but you're pushing shops too far and you're encouraging some things that are long-term bad for your consumers. If your consumers are not getting real repair, you are the problem, not the insurer, not the whatever. And that brings me to trust yourself to fail. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie The Truman Show, had Jim Carrey in it. If you haven't, please go watch it. It is a beautiful satire sort of on where society is today, where society was then and where it is today, and how easily humans are manipulated by corporations, by money, by people that want to sell us things, and then by politicians and by everybody else. And that sometimes our life becomes this construct that we think we've made, but we haven't. We've been sort of pushed into it. And honestly, right now, when I look at our industry and I talk to body shops, and again, I get the Chicken Little thing, right? Like, the sky is falling, or how's it going to end, basically. And I have shops just look back at this blank face and they are regurgitating the things that people that sold them things have told them to say. And that can be paint companies. It can be rental car companies. It can be um, uh, manufacturers of other things, sandpaper, whatever. But all of these people, they want to sell you something. So they tell you things about the industry that may or may not be true. May be true for one set, but may not be true for you, maybe whatever. There's a reality versus what people want to tell you when they want to sell you something. That goes for me too, right? Like I'm going to tell you to buy estimating training and on all the things that I have. This industry really has to sort of like stop listening to the sale and start looking at your business and what you need. I had a conversation with a shop last week on a total loss that had been sort of not abandoned, but was at the shop, and he was negotiating with the insurance company, and his contract and everything was beautiful. He had it. He was 100% right. And I think he thought he was going to call me and I was going to tell him, yep, stand your ground. And I basically said, you need to look for a way to settle this one. You're not going to give away everything, right? You're not going to do this for free, but you need to look for a way to settle this because right now you can't afford to end up with a replevin case or whatever. And it's just thinking about it's not in my best interest, right? Like I sell total loss classes and contracts and all that stuff. And so to tell a shop to settle probably isn't going to sell any more of my content. But looking at that and where he was at and what was going on in his life, that was the best advice that he needed. And he needed to hear that at that time. This is not the time for you to be the big guy and bound your chest and be the Superman of your city or state or your association. You need to settle this one and live to fight another day. Well, you need to trust yourself to fail. There's some things that some decisions that everybody in this industry needs to make right now, and they're scary. And yeah, they're going to cost you some money. Like the things that matter are expensive. That's just part of life. But trust yourself to figure it out because the going along isn't going to get you anywhere. It's going to get you broke. I mean, like, so we're sort of, this is the reality of where we're at. The industry is not in a good place. It is not in a sustainable place. People aren't fighting back. They're giving in. And the more they're giving in, the more they're giving up. And it's going to be very interesting. In some ways, some of the only things that can help us right now is for something big, like an MSO to sort of go bankrupt, to sort of make everybody go, ooh, I got to look at this completely different. But I don't want that to happen either. There's a lot of people that would lose jobs and whatever. But just trust yourself to fail. You'll figure it out, right? We'll all figure it out. And it's going to hurt. Things suck. You may not be able to have the vacation home and the expensive cars that you want to have. But just trust yourself to fail because there's a lot of what's being pushed at you right now that's being pushed that's not in your best interest. Some of it, I've talked to some of these people and they don't even know it's not. I mean, like they're the ones pushing it and they have no idea what they're pushing. They just work for a company and they've been told to come tell you some things. So my best advice is think about it. What's the motive of what somebody's trying to tell me? All right. Let's talk just really shortly, briefly about AI legal troubles. So as you watch in the interwebs, lots of suddenly litigation, investigations, and things are happening around AI. The FTC is starting to file suits against AI businesses. So for false advertising, you've said that your AI is going to do this or whatever. The big promises that a lot of people are making around AI, specifically in the collision repair industry. This one is not in the collision repair industry. I just thought it's a really interesting case. You cannot lie, cheat, or steal or tolerate anyone that does. That's just rule number one. This company, Air AI, basically their business focuses around AI tools for customer service. Chat bots and all of those things. And promises for how it was going to save all these companies money, make them money, and it didn't happen. And so now the FTC is suing them. Right now in our industry, there is a lot of people out there that are promising you AI will handle your customer service. It'll send your emails. It'll do all of these things. And some of it actually is really good. Some of it's like there, but you have to be involved. It's not just going to do it for you. And a lot of people in this industry are looking at AI as to be an easy button. And then there's a lot of people that are going to come along and promise you that. And then there's a lot of people that are promising you stuff that when the shit hits the fan are not going to be there. And you're going to be like, uh-oh, Like what do I do now? So be very careful. I am like all of you. I would love to have AI do a lot of things for me, like to not like necessarily to find some more, I don't want to say free time, but more time where I could spend thinking about the things I'm passionate about instead of not just answering a bunch of estimating questions, which I'll answer them, but like I want to talk the nuances of interpreting policy and some of the other things. Those are the things that excite me. But some things can't go to AI. Customer service will still need to have a human being involved. It's why it's called customer service and not robot service. And everybody right now is promising you some AI wonder tool that's going to take a lot of customer service off your plate. And you need to be very, very careful with what you're sold. And then you may buy it still, but be very aware of the realistic applications of it. This one I found was funny and made me happy because I bought a new car last week because I had a hybrid Jeep that's been in service since May, and Stellantis cannot figure out how to fix it. So I finally said, screw it. And I went and bought a Volkswagen. Now, got a really good deal because it was a 2024 that was still in the lot. They took like a crap ton off the sticker and it was great. And I like Volkswagens. Cool. But I got in it and I was like, how do I turn the radio volume up? And there was a little, there's like it's a slide. It's not even like a button. Like you push your finger on something and you slide it right or left. And like I had to ask, how do I turn the radio on? And I felt so boomer at that moment. Like holy shit, I'm old and I can't understand. And I miss buttons. So my other two daily drivers are a 99 Tahoe and a 97 Chevy. It's got buttons and damn it, I love those trucks. Um, what's interesting is the Brits want their buttons back. So they now believe that the screens and too many OEs have took key things to vehicle operation that are critical to and put them in screens and buried them in different, like you got to push this and go into this category in this folder, and then that's where that function is. I still haven't figured out how to turn like I should be able to see the backup cameras and the front camera when I want to. Like I haven't found that feature in the Volkswagen. Jeep, it was just a button. I hit camera and it would say front or back, and I could look. Um, so, but they want their buttons back. And if you're going to get a 5-star safety rating in Europe now, starting in 2026, you're going to have buttons around key features that are physical controls for basic functions of the vehicle. So I think that's interesting. That's almost like a return to more and more people are going, okay, we've pushed it a little too far with the technology. Let's bring some things back. I would just like a key again. I hate the push button start. All right. What's on the shelf? We'll wrap it up. This has been a long one. I knew it was going to be a good one. All right. There are a lot of things in life that people will know more than me or be better at than me, but probably reading won't be one of them. You will never probably outread me. Um, I, I think if you don't read and read even fiction, like if you just don't read, your brain will never fire. You can't watch a YouTube video. You can't, like, you've got to read a book. Like you've got to teach your brain how to fire, and you've got to teach your brain how to think of things in one area and how they apply to other areas. So I may read something that's a medical industry and, oh, look, it applies here or this, but this book is called Question of Loyalty. I love military history. I love American history. I love all of that. General Billy Mitchell was very influential in starting our Air Force. He was a great pilot in World War I, and he proved that a plane can sink a ship. Incredible. But after the war, he got very disappointed in where the government and the military was. And he believed that the government, even including the president, was preventing aviation, particularly military aviation, into doing what it needed to do to to progress, protect the country, and protect people. There was a crash that had happened. This is after World War One. And he became very critical that he felt that crash could have been prevented. And he was very vocal about it. So in 1924, I believe, I'm not going to look at it, in the 20s, so in the height of the Roaring 20s, the government tried him for treason, for speaking out about what he believed were so I love disruptors. I love people that are brave enough to say this shit ain't right and we got to do something about it. And so a court martial took place during the Roaring Twenties, and I love old trials because it wasn't like you think about the Karen Reed trial and how much coverage there was. Back then we had certain reporters and certain news outlets and only certain ways of hearing the story. But kind of the whole world got involved in this trial of the 20s. And the question of loyalty. So what does it mean to be loyal? Does it mean to blindly accept whatever leadership tells you? Is that loyalty? Or are you loyal to the cause or the country? Was he really loyal by speaking up and saying things were wrong and criticizing even the president of the United States? So the book is called A Question of Loyalty. It is a fantastic read. It's a quick read. I know it's thick, but I will tell you there's a lot of there's pictures and documents. You get copies of documents and you get pictures and everything. But just great books. Please read whatever you do. Please read. Please read. Please read. Read fiction. Read nonfiction. Read biographies. Read but read. Just there's things that happen in the brain and the way the brain fires and begins to sort of glow. You can almost feel your brain waking up when you read. And I know that sounds weird, and there's probably a lot more about me that's weirder than the way I believe your brain wakes up when you read. All right. Well, everybody, have a fantastic week. I will miss you next Monday. Actually, I won't. I'll just be driving back from Dallas. I probably won't even be thinking about anybody else. But anyway, I will miss like having a coffee talk, and hopefully the industry stays a little calm for the week that I am off. And I don't miss too much to talk about, but I will see you guys next Monday on Coffee Talk. Have a fantastic Labor Day if you're listening today. And if you're listening the day after Labor Day, well, then welcome back to work. And I will see you guys later. Thanks.